And when you're looking for channel partners, what criteria you have? What do you look for in a channel partner?
That's a very, very good question. So we do have a variety of different partners. So obviously the typical large value-added resellers that have practices around software asset management, IT asset management, they're definitely organizations that we focus on. In fact, in a period of about 6 to 9 months last year, we onboarded 35 or more of these global partners in a very short period of time because that was the demand. So that's one type of partner. And of course, now we've grown in different regions and we're using distribution more heavily. So that's two-tier distribution through VARs just to provide more scale into markets or areas where we just don't necessarily have an office or a localized presence. Outside of that, there really are two or three other types of partner we're very focused on. So we don't do services at Azul. So when somebody, for instance, wants to move from, say, Oracle to Azul, which is a very simple process, we've written a book on it. It's called JDK for Dummies, right? Open JDK for Dummies. But it's a process, it's a project that needs to be managed. Partners deliver those services. So we have a fair amount of integrators that are involved in that delivery process. And they obviously gets skilled up to provide those delivery services and really become a mainstay of both us bringing them into opportunities, but also supporting themselves, self-service. Outside of that, there are two other types of partners heavily right now. There's very much partners that are aligned to cloud, AWS MAP program migration, and also the APM programs. We're also on the marketplaces as well, so people can really truly modernize and use us all in the right ways. And there are significant integrator stroke resellers in that space. And we also spend a lot of time with managed service partners as well that are building practices around value-added capability. And some of our solutions, for instance, we have something called Intelligence Cloud, ends up being embedded in those types of managed service frameworks. So really, it's really all types of partner. We don't really have any type of partner, I think, that we don't support. And that includes embedded OEM partners that go to market like interconnect billing, provide a solution for telcos, or they are embedding Java technology in a vehicle, which we have all customers stroke partners that provide solutions that go into the major motor manufacturers that has embedded Java use as well using Azul. Very interesting space.
And can you also talk a bit about how is this whole channel ecosystem is evolving over time?
Channel for us today is a journey, right? We have a variety of different partners that are with us on this journey and evolving what they do. I think one of the things that's important for you to understand about how channel is evolving in this space and just generally in the market is if you look at value-added resellers, typically before they used to make a lot of their GP, gross profit, off of license margin. And that's because a lot of the ISVs, independent software vendors they're working with, would give them fairly hefty incentives to sell products. And of course, we all know who the big, ISVs are. But now what we're finding, because of the focus on budgets, cost optimization, that space is getting squeezed. And it's getting squeezed from two areas. It's getting squeezed from both the vendors, the ISVs, not wanting to necessarily provide as much margin to partners to resell. But it's also getting squeezed by the customers who are getting a lot more savvy around purchasing frameworks, purchasing agreements, where they're locking in much lower margin rates for partners in response to maybe just paying annual fees. That means, of course, that if you're one of these global VARs, you can't make as much money on licensing. So you have to pivot to services. And this is really where the marriage is sort of made it, but really well for us all on channel, because we don't do services ourselves. We provide support services for our partners, and we want our partners to deliver the services. So that means that they can now optimize for additional gross profit and margin off of the services they provide. So now, not only do we give them good incentive on product license and our core product sets, we provide them with the ability to go and create lots of different types of services engagement. Reason why I'm telling you this is because that's a big part of our focus right now, which is to skill up, to equip, to understand go-to-market, to understand the breadth of service potential, because it really is probably one of the largest areas that I see the majority of our partner base moving into fairly aggressively if they're not already in that space today.
How many partners did Azul gain over the year, and how many more do you plan to gain by the end of this year?
At Azul, we have over 200 partners globally. And of course, there's a typical 80-20 rule on these. You probably get the 20% or 80% of your revenue from 20% of your partner base. But that's changed a lot, actually, depending on the countries we operate in and how they view, or customers have been viewing interacting with partners. The growth has been significant, and we're getting all sorts of partners working with us. Typical organizations that maybe had more boutique, I would call it, service engagement around maybe providing developer resources or maybe providing a small managed service to a particular maybe set of customers, like for instance investment banks or a smaller like telcos group, for example. They're coming to us saying, okay, we've got a customer set, maybe 50 customers that we really want to provide next generation solutions for. How do we improve that and provide those services engagement? So we have those types of partners that come to us. Those types of partners we tend to now try and direct through distribution just to provide better scale. But then the larger partners, as I mentioned earlier, they're focusing much more in the big pillars of interest in the market. So that's application modernization, utilizing the cloud cost optimization, managed services, and FinOps. But it's also, interestingly, things like AI. So, of course, everybody talks about AI but that means different things to different people. But what people don't realize is AI, certainly as it relates to the first type of AI, which is very much about machine learning and things like recommendation engines and stuff like that. All that technology, the majority of it, is either powered by Scala or Java. So when you look at the infrastructure that's required to support initiatives like the adoption of AI in an organization, the majority of time somebody has to think about, how do I optimize for my Java environment? Like, for instance, Solar or Apache, for instance, they're all open source Java solutions. So sort of a lot of roads keep coming back to Azul and how we optimize at scale for those types of environments in the cloud. So it's a sort of very interesting space because the partners are starting to realize that we are a mainstay, almost framework that sits within their stack of solutions aligned to all these different market initiatives right now.
How much does the channel contribute to Azul's bookings and inbound opportunities?
Of course, what no. Well, we just actually released a press release on this, which is more of a momentum release for us. So, my journey at Azul has been to take us from relatively low amounts, sub 10% to as close to as 100% as possible of all revenue and become a significant growth factor. I think we announced just recently we crossed over 44%. Our goal is to get 60% or plus within 3 years. We're well on track to do that. It's been probably the fastest I've done this in my career, and I've spent really my whole career in either system engineering, sales, or running channel, usually senior executive roles in most organizations. But this is the first time I've been able to so rapidly build channel within the space of 2 years. And it's partly driven by the market, but it's partly driven by the foresight and the investment of our board and executive team, because candidly, they saw the opportunity to go and really mobilize a channel in a way that was fairly dormant. And me coming in and being with my background, it was very, well, not easy. Nothing's ever easy, but it was relatively straightforward to go off and go and create that engagement model.